Hey guys, Howard here with a kind of introduction, if you will, to jazz arpeggios. Okay, I call them jazz arpeggios because that's really sort of the musical realm that they came from. But certainly, there's been a lot of modern players over the last couple of decades or more that have employed them into their playing, like these guys are right here. But basically, what it comes down to is that in the world of jazz, you don't often hear just C major, D minor, E minor, F major. They rarely play anything smaller than a seventh. That's not a dyed in the wool rule, of course, but basically the C major, the D minor, the E minor in any given key. We're in the key of C right here, of course. They get changed to sevenths. C major seventh, D minor seventh, E minor seventh, F major seventh, G major seventh, A minor seventh, B minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished as some people call it, and then back to C major 7. So there's an arpeggio for each chord, of course, and I'm just going to take you through them, and hopefully you'll find them as interesting as I do. I actually learned them years ago, eons ago, from a fabulous player and teacher, Jody Fisher. So a little shout out to Jody on these. So let's get started. The very first chord, of course, is C major 7, however you decide to play it, and the arpeggio is like so. Quite nice sounding, and you'll notice that that actually starts on the major 7th, the B note. Now the next chord, of course, is D minor 7th, and that's the arpeggio for D minor 7. Right off of the 5th string. We'll talk about a couple of alternate fingerings for these in just a second. The next chord is E minor 7, and that's pretty obvious. You just take the exact same fingering that you did for the D minor 7th, and you raise it up a whole step to E minor 7. The next chord in line is F major 7. And the arpeggio for this is a little bit more difficult to play, but nonetheless very sweet sounding. A little bit trickier to finger maybe, but a beautiful sound nonetheless. And just like the major 7th, the C major 7th that we did earlier, it actually starts on the major 7th, in this case an E note. Now, that's an F major 7th fingering, or a major 7th fingering period off of the 5th string. So if you wanted to play a different fingering for the C major 7th, say you were jamming down around here, you could use that same fingering starting at the 2nd fret to capture the major 7th, the B note. The next chord is G7, G dominant 7th, and the arpeggio for that also starts with the 7th. It starts with the dominant 7th of the chord, the F. Kind of an easy one to do that kind of stuff with because of its shape. The next chord is A minor 7th, and that's another 6-string arpeggio, but we'll talk about that one as well. Quite lovely sounding. And of course, that's a minor 7th arpeggio. So if you wanted to use the finger, if you were up high and you wanted to use the fingering for the E minor 7th or the D minor 7th, you would simply start on an A note. And then we have a B minor 7th flat 5. And that's a really cool sounding chord. And so is the arpeggio. And then back to C major, of course. So there you go. 7 chords, 7 arpeggios. C major 7th, D minor 7th, E minor 7th, F major 7th, G dominant 7th, A minor 7th, B minor 7th flat 5, and then of course back to the root chord. These are very, very effective sounding. They're really sweet and really nice to toss into your playing. I may do a follow-up video on this, I'm not sure yet, detailing some cool and creative ways to use them. Mixing them up with the modes, of course, is very effective, and playing the harmony arpeggio to the chord that might be going by is also really effective. But that's for another video with a lot more detail. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you find these great arpeggios very useful.